Got to read between the lines. Got to read between the lines.
Hello everybody, welcome to another edition of What's Going On. I'm your host, Tom D'Ambra. As always, we're very thankful you take the time from your busy day to join us. We promised you last week that we would continue studying a document called Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars, and we are going to continue that, but I couldn't let some of the events of the last week pass without making some comment on them. As we all know, the Obamacare charade, or lack of care with death panel charade, has not been going too well for those in power. Actually, if you agree with that statement, you really don't understand what's going on. My friends, you got to understand that all these mistakes that have been made by decades and decades from all the different agencies and fields of the insolvent corporation that you call the government are not mistakes at all. And what I mean by that is, since 1964, when the United States government, the insolvent corporation, United States government, took over the public school system, we are now, as we said to you 2 weeks ago with an international study, out of the 32 industrialized nations, we are the most dumbed down adults in the Western world. This is not by mistake. This is the means to the end. They want to dumb us down. If you remember, some years ago, we did a report on the book by Charlotte Iserbyt, Undersecretary of Education during the Reagan administration, and the name of her book is The Deliberate Dumbing Down of America. Well, my friends, this is exactly what the education or indoctrination system was about. And you're going to see this correlation linked into this document that we're about to study. And they actually call the education system indoctrination system, all right? This is not by mistake, and it's the same thing with Obamacare. Never mind that they can't account for $63 million already. Never mind that they've been taking taxes from you for the last 2 years. Never mind that the IRS has hired over 16,000 new agents because they're going to be involved in your health care. Never mind that they have admitted that there are death panels in Obamacare. Okay? This is not by mistake. The fact that there's SV40 in the vaccinations with thrombicerol and mercury is not a mistake, and all that was approved by another government agency known as the FDA. None of this is a mistake. The fact that they're spraying cancer agents and barium in the chemtrails above us is not a mistake. And don't say they're not doing it, my friends, because you can see it almost every day, no matter where you are in the country or the world for that matter. And there was a bill in 1996 put in front of the Congress to actually stop it, which was voted down, but it is an admittance that they're doing it. This is not by mistake. The idea that they're putting a toxic agent in your public drinking water called fluoride is not a mistake. The first people to put fluoride in the water systems were the Soviets during the gulags, and the second person to do it was Hitler during the labor camps, or we've come to be known as the concentration camps. This was not by mistake. They didn't care about the teeth or the dental health of the people in the concentration camps. As a matter of fact, fluoride is very detrimental to dental health. Do your own research. But this is not by mistake. The idea that they are not going to allow you to know whether your food is GMO or not is not by mistake. That all has to do with Codex Alimentarius, which we have read a lot of it, portions of it, verbatim to you on this program. This is not by mistake. The idea that NAFTA and GAFTA and GATT and all these free trade agreements that they have sold to the American people have taken our manufacturing base and shipped it overseas at the expense of the American taxpayers is not a mistake. The idea that they have purchased billions of rounds of ammunition and 7,700 MRAPs, armored personnel carriers for homeland security, that the NSA is surveying every bit of social communication that you have, whether it's personal, whether it's public, open air, closed air. This is not a mistake. The idea that the United States government, through the 1933 Trading with the Enemies Acts, declared you the enemy of the United States and all those under the jurisdiction thereof is not a mistake. You have got to understand that when they wrote in 2012, the NDAA, National Defense Authorization Act, that the United States, the geographical area known as the United States, has been declared a battlefield, my friends. This is not a mistake. When Chinese economic zones are being set up, which we have covered on this program, and they don't have to pay taxes, they have their own laws, they have their own people, they have their own law enforcement, this is not a mistake. So what makes you think that this Obamacare is something that they just can't seem to get together? My friends, this is not a mistake. This is being done deliberately, and they're laughing at you. They're laughing at all of us. I personally believe in reading their white papers and listening to interviews from the people who know these people on the inside, Lindsey Williams and others, that they are even surprised at the gullibility of the American people. They didn't think they were going to get this farther along down the road to complete tyranny and thought control and newspeak language. My friends, none of this is a mistake. This is all being done on purpose. All of it. Never mind that you've been paying so long and you haven't received one benefit and they still can't account for $63 million. Or do you think that Donald Rumsfeld on September 10th, 2001, announcing to the world that the United States Pentagon cannot account for $2.3 trillion, that's with a T, you think that's just a mistake? How do you lose $2.3 trillion? Of course, if you're watching this program, you understand that we no longer have dollars. We have Federal Reserve notes, which is the linchpin of our problems. Well, let's see what else they've done here. This is a National Review Online. This is even in the mainstream media, my friends. House Democrat Whip Steny Hoyer conceded to reporters today that Democrats knew very well that people would not be able to keep their current health care plans under Obamacare. We knew that there would be policies that would not qualify and that people would be required to get more extensive coverage. See, again, this is all for your own well-being. This is all for your own well-being. Everything we do is beneficial to you. She says, I don't think, Steny Whitman says, I don't think that the message was wrong. I think the message is accurate, but not quite precise enough. It should have been a caveat with, a caveat is a warning, assuming that you have a policy that in fact does do what the bill is designed to do. Well, my friends, what is the bill designed to do? The bill is designed to have the federal government control your medical care. The bill is designed to destroy the private relationship between you and your primary care provider. The bill is designed to give all of your medical information to government agencies, and they sell it to private corporations such as insurance agencies and so forth. The bill is designed that you and your primary care provider are going to be making choices with regards to your medical care and health. And what I mean by that is when you read this bill, you will see that when you have certain symptoms, the doctor, all that doctor can do is open up this manual and say, well, I am allowed to do this test, that test, and this test, not all these other series of tests that I'd like to do, and normally would have. Your hands are being tied. That's what this bill is designed to do, and is also designed to bleed the American people even more. Already, employers are laying off people or reducing their hours to 29 hours a week, so they don't meet that 30-hour mandate and have to cover you. Not only is our true unemployment rate about 22% currently, never mind the U3 and the U6 that they throw at you. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I invite you to go back on www.katv.org and look at the show, because we did a whole show on statistical lies, how the unemployment is actually 8 different equations that they present to you, how the consumer price index is a statistical lie, because they can't show that we're having inflation, because then they'd have to give the people on Social Security and welfare and all these things a raise. So they have to fabricate formulas to keep the CPI low, such as leaving out food prices and fuel prices and so forth. So this is what they do, my friends. And this is not by mistake. None of this is taking place. Do you really think these people are that inept that they couldn't put this together if they wanted to? After all, they have the computers and the technicians to spy on the entire world, including world leaders. This is not by mistake, my friend. So Representative Stoney continues and says that we want to assure adequate coverage so the public would not have to be on the hook for serious illness or other illnesses. Well, who's paying for Obamacare? The public. And how are they going to eliminate serious illness or other illnesses? Through death panels. Let's say that you are a very elderly person and you break a hip, but yet you have a respiratory ailment, cardiac ailment, some kind of ailment that is life-threatening. Well, guess what, my friends? It's a score system. And if you don't reach this score, you are not going to be able to have that hip corrected. You will lie in bed in agony, and then your lungs will fill, and you will die from a common thing known as pneumonia. And I invite you to go back and look at statistics on pneumonia back in the 1817, 1600s, and you will see it was the #1 killer of people. Why? Because the body could not move the fluid and you literally drowned in your own lungs. This is not by mistake. After all, these people are eugenists. They have written in too many pamphlets and too many books and the Georgia Guidestones for the public to see that they wish to reduce the population of the world to 500 million people. My friends, there's 7 billion of us currently. And they have all these different programs to do this. They have the soft kill programs and they have the hard kill programs. And you're probably wondering, what is a soft kill program? Well, a soft kill program, some of the lists they have, according to Bill Gates especially, if you go on the internet and punch in Bill Gates loves vaccinations for population control, and I invite you to do that. You'll be shocked at what he says in public forum. But yet the people are applauding Mr. Gates for his statement. The vaccination programs, SV40, mercury, thimerosal, all these things in there, cancer agents. SV40 is a cancer agent. All these different things. The cancer program, and that's what they call it. They actually call it, on their soft kill programs, they list the cancer program. No wonder why they don't want you to know what's in your food. They don't want you to know what's in your water and what air you're breathing, what's in the vaccinations. Why do you think they push vaccine? You can't drive down any main store where there's drug stores and come get your free flu shot. Come get your, a shingle shot for $1. Get your free flu shot and earn a 20% off card. Are they making money on that? No, they're killing you. They're killing you. It's part of their soft kill program. The hard kill program are things like war. War is a hard kill program. It's immediate. The soft kill programs are long term. And by the way, my friends, when you start doing research on cancer, all the cancer rates are climbing expeditiously. All of them. From elderly to mid-range age people to children. Children are being born with cancer now. Another soft kill program is the drugs, which is going to take us to our next subject. I've been studying about Afghanistan since we invaded that country. And do you know that their gross domestic product has risen by 66% since we've invaded that country? I found that startling because since when does a country's gross domestic product improve by being invaded and bombed and taken over? Well, I had to research that deeper. It didn't make sense to me. Has there been new auto factories or any kind of factories built in Afghanistan? No. Are the farms prospering with new aqua systems and all? Well, there is a certain type of farming that is really prospered since we've gone into Afghanistan, which they account for on their gross domestic product. Are you ready for this, my friends? And the farming that I'm talking about is opium production, the poppy plants. 93% of the world's total opium, heroin, is coming from Afghanistan. Now, you don't think we could shut that down? After all, the Taliban shut that down for 14 years, and it was one of the major reasons why we went into Afghanistan to begin with. And if you don't believe me, I invite you to go to whatreallyhappened.com, punch in, they'll see a bunch of titles, punch in Afghanistan, and you will see United States soldiers not only protecting the poppy fields, but actually packaging the opium. Geraldo Rivera did a segment on it on Fox News, and we had to do it. It was for the better that we did it, because if we don't do it, Al-Qaeda is going to do it. The Taliban, my friends, outlawed the growing of poppy for 14 years, as I said. The CIA, the Mossad, and a lot of black ops money was being missed, and a lot of control was being missed. When we went into Afghanistan, I'm in the fire and EMS line of work. I told all my fellow brothers and sisters that, and this was up here in northern Vermont, that we, even up here, are going to see a deluge of heroin within a year. Well, I was wrong, because it was about 8 months and we started to see it, and now we see it all the time. It's in epidemic proportions, even here in small town northern Vermont. So the poppy production, since we have gone into Afghanistan, is up by 2,500%. 2,500%. And they account this on their gross domestic product. That's how their GDP has gone up by 66% since being invaded. You know, I was talking about medical Obamacare earlier, and as I was studying something else, I came off from a quote from Obama. This is in 2007, and this is his quote. "I do not think we're going to be able to eliminate employer coverage immediately." Well, what's that tell you? 1, where they're going, 2, what the goal is, and 3, they're a little discouraged because they're not going to be able to do it immediately. But that is the game plan. They are doing it. And you know, it was interesting when I was listening to different comments on the House floor the other day. They were talking about all these people are getting cancellation notices from insurance companies. Hundreds of thousands of Americans are getting these things on a daily basis now. Well, guess what? The government doesn't consider them cancellation notices. They consider them, and I quote, transition notices. See? You're going to go from private coverage to our coverage. You're going to pay for it. We're going to tell you what coverage you have. We're going to reduce your rights. We're going to reduce your choices. And you're not being canceled. You're being transitioned. Talk about Orwellian newspeak. Okay, one last thing before we get into our topic of today was I was reading, I keep up on what's going on with all the bailout money as much as I can because we have no real accountability. Well, the United States corporation government has a $9.7 billion loss on GM shares. Now, that's amazing. So not only are you on the hook for $9.7 billion in losses, but GM, as you know from watching this program, has basically moved their entire operations over to China, Vietnam, and South America. Folks, GM wasn't in trouble. GM needed to move. It no longer makes sense to do business in this country. The taxes, the regulations, the economic environment are all poor. GMs, they're smart people. They know they're in on the board meetings at the Bilderberg meetings and all these things, and the Trilateralist and the CFR. They know what's going on. They know this whole thing's coming down, and they got you to pay to restructure their factories and their management and their logistics before it all came down. And not only are you taking a $9.7 billion loss, but the American taxpayers paid for the cost for them to ship their manufacturing base overseas. Now, this is sort of correlation to what we're about to talk about. This is basically, this was written by Stephen Watson from Infowars.com. And the head title is, School Test Teaches Kids Commands of Government Officials Must Be Obeyed by All. And I wasn't shocked by this in all honesty, but I had to research to make sure it was true. And that website is usually true, I will say that. They're very, very reputable. Anyway, the investigation appears that the paper is a part of a set produced by Pearson Education, a global corporation that provides education, publishing, and assessment services to schools in the United States and the rest of the world. Pearson is the world's largest for-profit education business. Now, I'm hoping we're able to show this to you on the screen. I hope we're able to scan this and get this out to you. But I just wanted to read a couple of things for you. This is directions. The progressive nouns, directions, make each sentence less wordy by replacing the underlined words. Write the sentence on the line below, okay? And basically, these poor children are so dumbed down. Listen to this one. The job of a president is not easy. So what did this student do to shrink this down? The president's job is not easy. They took out and That's it. But then we get down here, and it says right here, the commands of government officials must be obeyed by all. You understand the conditioning that's going on here? And what did this child write? The government's commands must be obeyed by all. So all they did was take out the word of again. Now, the last one here. The wants of an individual are less important than the well-being of the nation. And what did the poor child do again? Took out the word of. Cannot think for himself. This is all conditioning. And this is literally for elementary school reading. Elementary school reading. The commands of government officials must be obeyed by all. The wants of an individual are less important than the well-being of a nation. Really, really incredible. Just unbelievable, my friends. And by the way, this program is all part of the No Child Left Behind, which if you've been watching this program, you understand that No Child Left Behind was written by officials from UNESCO, United Nations Education, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, not by even the NEA, and certainly not by your local school board. Who is controlling and teaching your children? And by the way, some things about Pearson. Listen to this. We have turned school testing into a huge corporate profit center led by Pearson, for whom $32 million is actually pretty small potatoes. Pearson has a 5-year testing contract with the state of Texas alone. That's costing the state taxpayers nearly $500 million. That's one state. One state to come up with testing that goes along with No Child Left Behind. They're getting paid $500 million. Anyway, let us continue, my friends. And this is our subject matter for today. Silent weapons for quiet wars. I did invite you last week to go on the internet and to look this up and do your own research on this, and I hope a lot of you did. For the sake of time, there's no way I'm going to be able to get all of this done if I'm not satisfied that I didn't get enough done during this hour broadcast, and I will continue with it next week on the next show. But there were some quotes that I found very interesting by some world leaders and some succulent leaders. And basically, I want you to listen to this quote by William Casey. This is in 1981. If you don't know who William Casey is, or was, I should say, because he was murdered and found dead in a canoe, but we won't go there right now, because the Congress had subpoenaed him and he was going to have to talk about Iran-Contra. They couldn't allow that to come out, so William Casey was no longer useful to the global elite. But this is his quote. Now, he's former CIA director, all right? He's the former CIA director. You think he has an understanding of what's going on? Listen to this quote. William Casey, former CIA director, 1981. His quote: "We'll know our disinformation program is complete when everything the American people believes is false." Let me read that again. "We'll know our disinformation program is complete when everything the American public believes is false." William Casey, CIA Director, 1981. Well, what is this statement telling you? First of all, we'll know. They have knowledge. They're implementing this purposely. Whose is it? Is it yours? No, it's theirs. The program is theirs. Disinformation program. That means there is a well thought out, well coordinated, logistically implied disinformation program that's being waged against the American public. And they'll know it's complete and successful when everything you believe is false. Everything that the American public believes is false. And you don't think there's a war on for the thought process in the minds of the American people? Here's another quote by J.P. Morgan, famous banking cartel individual, very much part of the Act of the Federal Reserve Act of 1913. Listen to this quote: "By dividing the people, we can get them to expand their energies in fighting over questions that are of no importance to us." Let me read that again. By dividing the people, we can get them to expand their energies in fighting over questions that are of no importance to us. My friends, the whole thing is diversion. It's all diversion to create an illusion. And I hope you can distinguish between the words that I'm saying here. It is all a diversion to create an illusion. And here's another quote from a gentleman by InfoWars magazine, Alex Jones. He's saying, "Liberal, Democrat, Conservative, Republican, two sides of the same coin, two management teams bidding for the control of the CEO job of Slavery Incorporated." I totally agree with Alex's statement. Okay, so let's talk about silent weapons for quiet wars. It's an Operations Research Technical Manual, and you can look this up verbatim. It's TM Tango Michael dash SW Sierra Whiskey 7905.1. All right, TM dash SW 7905.1. This publication was written in the late 40s and early 50s, and basically came into play, put together in 1954 at a Bilderberg meeting when they first met, the global elite first met. You know what they did, folks? They got together and said, hey, look, number one, technology is taking us to places that we now have means of controlling the goyim, the less desirable, the useful eaters, to use 3 of their phases during this meeting. That's you and I. So now they have the technology to control us more and to take us down the road they want without the use of guns. They have the potential use of guns, but they're doing it, they're making us desire their authority. And this document is quite, it spells it out. It really lays it out in detail how they were going to do this and some of the things that they were going to do. Now, my friends, understand this is 1954, okay? But I thought that going back to Huxley in a lecture in 1961, he describes the police state as the final revolution, a dictatorship without tears where people love their servitude. Think of that. The final revolution, a dictatorship without tears where people love their servitude. Folks, what he's saying here is that they're going to make you, they already have, make you desire the servitude, desire their authority. They are your comfort zone. They'll do their thinking for you. They'll put it all together for you. You do not have to struggle through life. Excuse me. But a dictatorship without tears is because they are going to make you desire this. Excuse me. The quiet weapon says inoculation of behavioral drugs. So a dictatorship is basically, without tears, is basically saying to you that you're going to desire this. This is going to be a loving, soft revolution. Like the past and all of history where it's been revolution of blood. People love their servitude. Now, according to Huxley, the goal, my friends, was to produce, and I'm quoting here, a kind of painless concentration camp for the entire societies, so that people will in fact have their liberties taken away, but will be distracted from any desire to rebel by propaganda and or brainwashing, enhanced by pharmacological methods. What do you think they're talking about with pharmacological? How about things like Ritalin and Prozac and all these other drugs that all of our kids are on today? My friends, I'm trying to get permission to show a documentary about psychology and these drugs that we are giving our children today. I haven't got permission yet, but when we do, and hopefully we will, you will be shocked to understand that this is not a science. This is not a science at all. This is a mechanism to do exactly what Huxley was talking about. Let me read his statement again. A kind of painless concentration camp for entire society so that people will in fact have their liberties taken away, but will be distracted from any desire to rebel by propaganda or brainwashing, enhanced by pharmacological methods. So, dated, the silent weapons, this was actually dated, this particular segment of it, in 1979, was put together in 54, as I stated, Believe it or not, my friends, this was found in 1986 in an IBM copier that had been purchased at a surplus sale. That's how this document was discovered. I mean, I got to think divine providence was involved with that. But it is the product, and I'm reading verbatim from here, this document is the product of a discipline called Operations Research, developed after World War II to attack enemy population using tools of social engineering and psychological warfare. The international elite, however, decided in 1954 to wage a quiet war against the American people with the goal of shifting wealth from the irresponsible many into the hands of the responsible and worthy few. In view of the law of natural selection, it was agreed on that a nation or world of people who will not use their intelligence are no better than animals who do not have any intelligence. To the global elite, such people are beasts of burdens and stakes on the table by choice and consent. The goal is to establish an economy which is totally predictable and manipulable. The masses will have to be trained and assigned, this is verbatim now, trained and assigned a yoke at a very early age. To achieve such conformity, the family unit must be disintegrated by a process of increasing preoccupation of the parents and the establishment of government-operated daycare centers for occupationally orphaned children. Now, what is an occupationally orphaned children? The children are orphaned because both parents are working to keep their head above water. Occupationally orphaned. You like how they got these fancy words? Well, of course both parents, when there is both parents today, have to work. Why? Because you're giving, the average family unit is giving about 54% of their wealth to taxes. So either the wife or the husband are every day working to supplement the tax burden on the family unit, and then the other person is still paying on average 4% of his earnings to taxes. Of course both people have to work. That's one of the reasons why it was designed this way, to destroy the family structure. Remember, we did it about 6 or 8 months ago, that the children are not the parents, the children belong to the state. We read that verbatim to you. Understand, there is a war being waged. You have been declared the enemy. This is accomplished through silent weapons, propaganda, and social engineering applied in the media and schools. And I think they should add one more thing there, the churches. When the silent weapon is applied gradually, the public adjust until the pressure becomes too great and they crack up. Therefore, the silent weapon is a type of biological warfare. It attacks their sources of natural and social energy and their physical, mental, and emotional strengths. This document also further goes along that the father must be, and I quote, housebroken. The advertising media see to it that he is, and I can't use this word, I don't want to use this, but taught that he doesn't conform or his sex life will be zero. I don't want to get into that too much, but I'll tell you, you see it every day on television and mainstream media. So folks, let me just do some breakdown that I've done here on this document, and then I want to start reading it verbatim. The document speaks of gaining control of the public by keeping them, and I quote here, undisciplined, ignorant, confused, disorganized, and distracted. You think that sums up the American people today? Keep the public diverted away from the real social issues and captivated by matters of no importance. Does this not go back to J.P. Morgan's statement, by dividing the people, we can get them to expand their energies in fighting over questions that are of no importance to us? You think that's just coincidence? Sabotage their mental activities by a constant barrage of sex, violence, and wars in the media. Achieve mental and emotional rape. This is their own language, my friends. Give them junk food for thought and deprive them of what they really need, especially a sound education. Keep the public entertained below the 6th grade level. Well, they've achieved that and more. Because the average high school student graduating on American public schools right now has a 4th grade reading level as compared to 1964 when the insolvent corporation, United States government, took over the public education system. So they've actually done better than what they were hoping for. They were hoping for a 6th grade reading level. They've got us dumbed down to a 4th grade reading level. And if you don't believe me, you call up your local editor of any newspaper and he'll tell you they keep it at a 4th grade reading level. Destroy the faith of the American people in each other. And this is all part of the divide paradigm which operates so well in this country. You're white, you're black, you're Hispanic, you're non-Hispanic, you're pro-life, you're pro-choice, you're right, you're left. Folks, the American people have better stop thinking about left and right, and you better stop thinking about up and down. Where are we going? Because the left and the right are taking you down the same road to going down. There is no difference between the two. You better start thinking about up and down and not this left-right paradigm that they've absorbed you with. Terrible. And do the American people have faith in each other? Absolutely not. The American people are so divided, they quarrel with each other. We're not American anymore. We're black or we're white or we're pro-choice or, you know, we're not American anymore. When's the last time someone said to you, I'm American? No, they define it into terms of the divide paradigm. I see it every day. And this was a good one, and this, again, this is all in their document, which we're going to read you. There is profit in confusion. The more confusion, the more profit. Therefore, the best approach is to create problems and then offer solutions. Can you say the Hegelian dialectic? And for those of you that have been watching this program over the years, you're very well rehearsed in the Hegelian dialectic. Crisis, reaction, solution. It's the triangle. They create a crisis, they get the emotional response that they want from the people, and the two that they desire are fear and anger, fear being prominent. And then they provide the solution, which always takes away our liberties, expands their authorities, and produces more sweat equity for the authorities out of your pockets. They do this all the time. 9/11, drunk drivers on the road, all of it. My father's generation would have never accepted roadblocks on the road. But we're going to do something with them terrible drunk drivers. You're going to have roadblocks. Oh, we have to have the Patriot Act, Homeland Security Act, John 1 Defense Authorization Act, all these things. We have to go invade all these countries because they created a crisis called 9/11. And they created the other crisis that went along with it. The 7/7 bombing and all that type of thing. They got the first anti-terrorist bill passed in this country by blowing up the government building in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, the Murrah building. And if you don't believe me, I invite you to go back and watch the documentary we did, A Noble Lie. The forensic evidence shows you that all of the explosions of the Murrah building were from the inside out. 2 unexploded devices were picked up inside the Murrah building. Timothy McVeigh was a patsy. The welfare state as a strategic weapon. Make the public want the government to perpetuate their dependency role of childhood. Simply put, they want a human God to eliminate all risk from their life. Pat them on the head, kiss their bruises, put a chicken on every dinner table, tuck them in and tell them everything will be all right. My friends, this is in their own writing. And right now, what is it? 51% of the American people are on the dole. And I will qualify that by saying that the people on Social Security and Medicare have earned that. They're not on the dole. They earned that. They paid into that system all their lives. And their returns are not what was promised them. I have a friend of mine currently whose wife is going through a cancer battle. He works 2 full-time jobs. His insurance benefits are leaving him with bills, thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, and this is just for diagnostic testing. He works 2 full-time jobs, my friends. And these aren't ignorant man's jobs. These are jobs of education. And even with his education, his benefits are not covering so much that he is swamped in medical bills. If my friend was on welfare and on Medicaid, everything would be covered. His sweat equity is covering the people that have put nothing into the system. That's the dole, not the people on Social Security. That has been earned. The human God is the politician who promises the world and delivers nothing. Are you listening to this? Are you listening? The human God is the politician who promises the world and delivers nothing. This public behavior is surrender born of fear, laziness, and expectancy. In other words, you're expecting all these benefits. It is the basis of the welfare state as a strategic weapon useful against a disgusting public. Pretty much tells you what they think of us, doesn't it? The public's lack of resistance is a sign that it is ripe for surrender and is consenting to enslavement and legal encroachment. Notice the word legal and not lawful. If something is legal, my friends, it is by decree. It is not by a legislative representative vote. Is it lawful that they tax you out of everything? Is it lawful that they put SV40 and triglycerol and mercury in your vaccinations? Is it lawful that they put all these different things in your food, poisons, and they're spraying you with bariums and cancer agents? Is it lawful that they're dumbing down your children? Is it lawful that they're taking on average 54% of your sweat equity every year? No, it's not lawful, but it's legal. Someone drew up a piece of paper and said they could do it because you allowed it. We as a people have allowed this. As a friend of mine and teacher said to me one time, history shows that the people get the type of government they deserve. And I agree with that statement. Am I saying I'm happy with what we have today? No. This is an insolvent corporation that's been taken over by banking elite and corporations and using the strong arm of government to implement its ways. What I am saying is that by Sherman's statement is because we have allowed this to go on. We have not been active. We have not participated in the game, in the arena of liberty. How many people have you out there have seen an actual law that says you have to contract with a private corporation and have money taken out of your paycheck every week? Have you ever seen the law? Because if you have, I invite you to go to wethepeople.org. They're offering a $50,000 paycheck to anybody who can and nobody has in 20 years, including former IRS agents. Why? Because we as a people have surrendered. We have surrendered. We are ripe for the pickings. And now the pickings, they're here. They're here. And this is what Obamacare is about. Folks, after Obamacare, the last thing is the private pensions. That's all that's left in the blood of the stone to wring it out. That's it. That's it. There's nothing else left. You don't own your land. You don't own your car. You're bonded with a birth certificate. You don't own your children. The courts are owned by a banking elite, the British Accreditation Registry. That's what the bar stands for. You're ingesting poisons every day without doing any investigative work, without any knowledge, of complete ignorance. You're having your kids take vaccinations. You send your children off to indoctrination centers while you have to, both of you have to work because you're paying 54% of these banking elite. We have been controlled. We're conquered as a people. And this document laid it all out back in 1954. And unfortunately, we're going to have to continue this into next week. But this document has laid it all out. And when you see from 1954 to almost 2014, they have been beyond successful. Beyond successful. They have not just matched their goals and desires, they've expanded on them. Let me read that statement again. The public's lack of resistance is a sign that it is ripe for surrender and is consenting to enslavement and legal encroachment. A good indicator of harvest time is the number of public citizens who pay income tax despite an obvious lack of reciprocal or honest service from the government. Folks, this isn't my words. This is their words. This is their words. This is in writing. You want me to read that again? A good indicator of harvest time, bring in the reap, is the number of public citizens who will pay income tax despite an obvious lack of reciprocal or honest service from the government. And of course, they didn't add lawful justification or even legal justification because the IRS is a private corporation. We've gone over that too many times in this program. We have read that to you verbatim from 4 different entities. Why? Because we live in fear. Land of the free, home of the brave. Cheap words when you look at where the American people are today. And we are ripe for the harvest. And the harvest is being taken place currently. Folks, I think I'm going to stop here. We're getting low on time. But it just sums it up so well. And then what we'll do next week, my friends, is we will get into virtually the ways and means, if you would, of this document. But I wanted you to, I just want to continue one thing here. This is, again, Operations Research Technical Manual TM SW 7905-1. And it says here, this welcome aboard. See, now welcome aboard. So this document was for people in the inside, not for the public eye. And I will tell you right now, there is a risk. If you have the availability to get on a public computer, I recommend you do that. I don't recommend you pull this up on your home personal computer. Why? Because they're watching everything that you pull up. And number 2, you will be flagged if you pull this up on your personal computer. And you may be saying, well, Tom, aren't you worried about broadcasting this? My friends, I am already on 2 FBI watch lists, according to the FBI, because of this program and other things that I'm involved with. And last year I was interviewed by the Secret Service, who also confirmed that. And I say to this, do I enjoy that? That's not a badge of honor to me or a claim. No. But it's a reality check, a barometer as to where we are as a people, because all I am doing is reading to you verbatim their own writings. That's this whole program. This whole program isn't about me coming up here and making suggestive observations. No, I am reading things verbatim to you. I read to you verbatim the 1933 Trading with the Enemies Act that declared you the enemy. The NDA 12 that declared the geographical area of the United States a battleground. Codex Alimentarius, I have just read this stuff verbatim to you. This isn't me speaking. I'm basically just reading to you. Just as I'm reading this document, Operations Research Technical Manual. Listen to this. Welcome aboard. This publication marks the 25th anniversary of the Third World War that we call the Quiet War, being conducted using subjective biological warfare fought with silent weapons. Hence the name, Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars. This book contains an introductory description of this war, its strategies, and its weaponry. It is patently impossible to discuss social engineering or the augmentation of a society, i.e., the engineering of social augmentation systems, i.e., silent weapons, on a national or worldwide scale without implying extensive objectives of social control and destruction of human life, i.e., slavery and or genocide. I'm going to read that again to you. This is their opening statement mission criteria. It is patently impossible to discuss the social engineering or the augmentation of a society, i.e., the engineering of social augmentation systems, i.e., silent weapons, on a national or worldwide scale without implying extensive objectives of social control and destruction of human life, i.e., slavery and or genocide. So you wonder why your children are in indoctrination centers, dumbed down? Why they can't even count change back for you if the machine doesn't do it? You wonder why the cancer rates, if children are being born with cancer, the cancer rates are through the roof? You wonder why that our military is in 143 different countries right now? You wonder why you're dumbed down with entertainment, constant barrage of entertainment? You wonder why the indoctrination centers do not teach a reasoning, thoughtful process? You wonder why your media is, all the media in the Western world is controlled by 6 corporations? You wonder why the American people's health is the worst in the world at the highest expense, and now they're taking even that away from you, not going to allow you to make your own judgment. They're not going to have your own privacy between you and your primary care provider. You wonder why you're working for an insolvent corporation, that your sweat equity is put back into Federal Reserve notes, that we have to pay an interest bond due on each and one of them because they give us permission to print it. You wonder why there's no more gold or silver or intrinsic value backing up our currency? Because there's a war being waged against you. You've been declared the enemy in their own writing. This is where we are as a people, and they are right, the American people. What was their judgment? They'll know when it's time for the harvest and the people are ripened for the harvest when the American people pay an income tax, even though there's no reciprocal relationship with the government. Millions, hundreds of millions of people are paying an income tax to a franchised private corporation called the Internal Revenue Service of the Federal Reserve, which is a private, for-profit banking corporation. And you wonder why veterans are the #1 terrorist threat to the United States? Why? Because veterans, my friends, have seen the world for what it is. Veterans have patriotic heart. They believe in the ideals of this country. And they have sworn an oath when their word in their heart has meaning to defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Well, my fellow veterans, the enemy is in the gate. Their document, their plan of war is right here. And I invite you to come back next week, and we will continue reading this document of war against the American people called Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars. My friends, this is not fantasy. This is reality. This is the deception that creates the illusion that we live every day. And I invite you to come back next week. I'm sorry I wasn't able to get to all of this today, but there's a lot here. So make a mental note for yourselves. We'll see you next week. We hope you enjoyed the show. But number one, please go out and do your own research. Don't depend on us. Do your own research. But do not pull this document up with your home computer. You will be red flagged. After all, the NSA and the ASA are watching all of your communications, all of your research, all of your transactions, financial, educational, medical, and so forth. So you have to be careful. My friends, these are interesting days we are living in. As always, we're very thankful that you take the time from your busy, busy day as they keep us the proverbial rat in the wheel to watch our program. And as always, we close in reminding you that your government is your responsibility. Thank you for watching.
Got to read between the lines. Got to read between